So you need to reconstitute some peptides. Quick tutorial coming up right now. Hey guys, how's it going? Dr. Rob here, American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, 25-year clinical practice, and I'm just going to go over how to reconstitute your peptides. First of all, whatever peptide you are reconstituting, first of all, here's what you need. You need the peptide itself that you are going to reconstitute. You need bacteriostatic water. This is sterile water with 0.9% benzyl alcohol. The other things you should have on hand if you are going to do peptide research are you should have acetic acid. You don't hear about this too much, but you should always have it on hand. Why? Because you are basically mixing freeze-dried powder form of your peptide with basically sterile water. Now, some peptides are hydrophobic, which is what it sounds like. Okay, they are afraid of water and they will run from it. And that can sometimes cause something called aggregation, which is where the amino acids actually cross-link and they become something else and you can't use them anymore. And you'll see this because they'll become sort of like a gel. Now, acetic acid is slightly lower pH, so it helps with aggregation. So just having it on hand, it can sometimes salvage a peptide that you might otherwise have to throw away. The other thing you should have, which I didn't bring it with me, is something called DMSO. Now, this is only for SLU PP332. If you've never heard of SLU before, you are going to very soon because it is probably the best performance peptide. So if you are somebody who is just trying to lose some weight and get a little bit healthier, you might have not heard of it. But if you're somebody who's athletic and fit and you are really trying to become more aerobic and stronger and muscle and lose fat, SLU is probably the best mitochondrial peptide. I'll be talking about it later, but you need DMSO to dissolve it. So that's only for SLU. Okay, so now, first thing, math. Everybody's favorite. When you are going to take a peptide, one of my pet peeves is when I talk to people who are taking peptides, I always ask them, well, how much retatrutide are you taking? And the answer is always the same. It's either I take 10 units or 15 units or 20 units. And I say, well, no. I mean, how much are you taking? How many milligrams? Oh, I don't know. They never know the dose they're taking because somebody told them put in this much water and then somebody told them pull the needle back to here. Now listen, you don't need to know the chemical structure of anything. You don't need to know all the nerdy details like I do, but you should know your dose, okay? Because you might have to modify something or you might have to talk to somebody about it someday and you at least have to know your dose. So that's why I brought HGH, okay? So if you look at this bottle, I don't know if you can see that, but this is a 15 IU bottle of HGH. And why did I bring a 15 IU bottle of HGH? Because how am I going to dose this? Well, I take 3 IUs of HGH every night. So when I walk up to my fridge and I pull the HGH, what do I want to pull into my syringe? I want to make the math easy, right? So if this is 15 IUs, if I add 1.5 mLs of water, right? 1.5 into 15. Then when I pull this back to 10, how many IUs will be in there? 1, right? So all this syringe is 1 ml and it's got 10 graduations on it. That's all it is. These units are not a real unit. They're not an actual measurement of anything. It's just telling you where 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, half, 6/10, that's all it is. So think of this like a basket of apples. You got a basket with 20 apples, you put 10 in this basket and 10 in this basket, right? You now have an empty basket. So if I have 15 IUs, if I were to put 2 mLs of water, that's gonna give me weird math because that means I'm gonna have 7.5 IUs in here and 7.5 in here. That's weird. So like getting to 3, I would have to give myself 4/10, 40 units on here. Why would I want to do that? So if you add 1.5 mLs of water, then every 10 units will be 1 IU. It'll make things very easy. So always start by figuring out, what do I want my dose to be on this peptide? And that will tell you how much you should be adding. Now, in general, when you see a vial like this is a 3 ml vial. Most peptides come in either a 3 ml vial or a 10 ml vial. Like NAD will come in a 10, glutathione will usually come in a 10. So that's because you usually, when you see a 10 ml vial, that usually tells you you're supposed to add more than 3 mLs of water, because this will take 3 maximum and then it's full to the top, okay? So I'm just gonna pop the top of this. Now, this part is a little bit crucial. Not the filling up of the water, that part's easy. You just put the needle in and you draw back until you have your 1 ml, which is right there. Now, this part is kind of crucial, okay? The peptides are always under vacuum, which means as soon as I poke this in the top, it is going to suck the water in. And you don't want it to do that. You don't want this to be like a fire hose flood of water, because that will interbulate and disturb the peptide, okay? And while this is very robust in the vial like this, like you can ship it places and store it, and it's a little sensitive to light, obviously, and extreme temperatures, but it's pretty robust. But as soon as you introduce something in the vial, it can change the structure of the compound. So watch this part. You enter the center of the rubber stopper at an angle. You slowly insert it so that the needle points to the wall of the vial. Then look at how I'm holding this like a chopstick. And I'm not pushing it, I'm holding it. Like, you don't see my finger on the end of it. I'm just holding it. I'm actually slowing it from going in there. And I'm letting the water slowly drip down the side of the vial. Slowly drip down the side until it is empty. Okay? So now I have allowed 1 ml to go in, and now I need another 0.5, right? Because this is 15 units of HGH. Now, if this was 24 units of HGH, what would I have done? Well, if it was 24 units of HGH, I would have added 2.4 mLs of water, right? Because then I have the same concentration. That means I have 1 IU every 10 units on here. So here we go again with the needle right in the middle, and look at me holding the back. Let's go right in the middle. I'm not wearing my glasses because I want to look good. All right, there we go. So needle's in, and we're gonna allow that to slowly go down the side, like that. Okay, it's going down the side, and now our 5 is in there. Now I'm gonna vent it, so just twist this off. You'll probably hear a little, I don't know if you heard that, but okay, so I just vented it, and now that it's vented, I can take this out and cap it. And do not shake this, do not like jiggle it. Okay, you could probably see there's a little bit of powder, see that? So that will dissolve. So you just gently roll this between your fingers and it will dissolve, okay? And now that this is mixed, it needs to be refrigerated. You don't want this to get super cold. Colder is not better, okay? Colder can cause aggregation. So you want this to be in like the least cold part of your fridge. And when you want to use this, now you take your little skinny, teeny, tiny 31 gauge needle, and remember, I vented this, but you never know. Somehow, maybe you forgot, there might still be a vacuum. So as a practice, as a good practice, whatever you want to get out of this syringe, you always put in. So in other words, my nightly dose is 3 units. So I would pull this back to 30, like that. I would put the needle through the center of the stopper. I would push that 30 of air in. Then I would turn this upside down, and look how beautiful and easily that 30 comes out, right? So there's my 30 units ready for me to inject it. Okay? So those are the best practices for reconstitution and for injection. Pretty much everything is reconstituted that way except for SLU. And I could make a separate video for that because that is a really amazing performance peptide that a lot of people, it'll probably catch on pretty soon here. And I know a lot of people who take it, but it isn't as mainstream as MOTS-C or something like that, but it is a really amazing performance peptide. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I covered everything, and see you next time.